Welcome back to the Formation Lap with Todd and Brad, regular guys talking elite racing. And this week's preview is at the most iconic race, at the most iconic track. We would like to welcome you to the preview of the Monaco Grand Prix. And Todd, I'll welcome you in here.
Yeah.
Feels good to be back racing. And Todd, this is the one that everyone looks forward to on the calendar. You're going to see celebrities this week. You're going to see a whole lot of people packed into a tight space. Monaco is so much fun. Not necessarily the race on Sunday. We're going to get to that, but it's just it's the prestige. It's the money. It is Formula One. So, Todd, I'll welcome you in here.
Yeah, and thanks, Brad. And it's great to be back 2 weeks going. And thanks, fans, for coming. Yeah, Monaco is exciting. One day I want to go there.
Absolutely.
And as a kid in the 70s, that's the only F1 race that we really got to see was Monaco. And we were like, oh. Now, the track is exciting. They've got a film festival going on here, too, right now. And so it's really exciting, and it's exciting to watch these guys race. And just where it is, it's right there on the bay, and so it's going to be something neat.
Yeah.
Totally different from Canada. Canada was near the water, but this is going to be things. So, yeah, I'm excited. So, you ready to go into it?
I'm ready to get into it.
Right.
So let's just kind of a quick recap of where we are so far. Of course, you can see behind us here, Todd Kimmy still leading.
Yeah.
He extended his lead in Canada. If you didn't get a chance to watch the race, or you did, we kind of gave our thoughts on the Canada race, but Kimmy extended his lead over George. Of course, those two were yo-yoing back and forth, and George had a DNF. Charles still hanging into third, but Lewis is coming, and then in the constructors, Mercedes extended their lead. Ferrari's right there, and of course a bad weekend in Canada for my guys, but we'll get to that. But Todd, it's interesting because one of the things that the drivers have talked about is it's been 3 races and then a whole month off and then 2 races in North America, and now we're about to hit boom consecutive races. Exactly, consecutive races back to back. There's not going to be these long breaks. I think you're going to really start to see these drivers and these teams get in a little bit of a flow and a rhythm.
Yeah, definitely so, Brad. And from the standings of where we are right now, we didn't expect this.
No.
We expected Mercedes to be there, and George, but now they're going to be on their home turf, might you say.
Exactly.
And it's going to be exciting, and I was watching some things. If you remember, Lando won last year, the driver's champion, but he had some DNFs.
Oh,
he
absolutely.
Had some wrecks.
Yeah.
Before Max had it, and so there's an opportunity here, with Kimmy and things. But yeah, I'm excited to see them really get into these home races, might you say. They're very familiar with them, and I am excited about it. And the weather is going to be nice. It's not going to be 90 degrees like it was in Miami and raining and cold in Canada. So
I think we're going to get some consistent weather probably. So that's
and
good.
Where we are right now, Kimmy, we talked about it. He was going to be aggressive, and he was, and it's starting to show. I think George wouldn't have been as far back if his battery hadn't gone out, but we'll see. But there's some other breaking news, Brad.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's get to it before we get into our Monaco preview. As you can see behind us, some big news coming out this week, Todd, from one of your guys in Ferrari, Charles Leclerc signing a big contract extension. Of course, Formula One contracts, the terms of the deal and the length is not revealed, but it's rumored to be at least till probably 2029 or 2030. So a really decent extension, may even be longer than that. But you can see there, Charles said, "Monaco is my home. Ferrari is my family. Our story is far from over." I love that from Charles.
Yeah.
And Todd, I think it's very appropriate. He is native to Monaco. That's where he spends most time, and they announced it this week. So I think it's really, really cool that Ferrari and Charles decided to do that.
Yeah, and he's my guy. I got this. I got a hat that's 16, so I was excited to hear about that. And I think Charles has been that close for a long time, and Ferrari knows it. And he's worked with Fred and other teams, and so I think this is going to help him. He's had a couple of terrible races. Miami, he wrecked there in the very end. Canada, he just could not figure it out, and so he lost confidence. So I think you're right. He gets sleeping on bed. He gets to just scooter down to the paddock. This time around, his wife now is there, and he knows these corners. He won 2 years ago. I do think this was a great opportunity for him, to say, okay, I'm in, and now I can exhale a little bit. We don't know all the details, but as you can imagine, when you get a contract or you get a job, when you get that signed document, you're like, okay, yeah. So I think it's going to help a lot, and we might see the fruit of this contract this weekend.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a great point. All right. Let's get into Monaco, Todd. And you've got the circuit here behind us. It's a long race. It's 70, 78 laps, but it's the shortest in distance too. So that factors a lot. Todd, for those that are not super familiar with Monaco, or just kind of a casual fan joining us here, break down this Monaco track and what makes it different than really just about any other track on the F1 calendar.
Yeah, and so like you said, it's the shortest of all the tracks this year, and usually it is. It was one of the first first tracks when F1 started in 1950.
And they haven't changed it.
And they haven't changed.
Maybe very subtle changes, but the core of it has not changed.
That's right. And so, folks, if you're watching, this is a street course. Period. That's it. I mean, it's a true street course, minimal straights, and the straights are really bending. And, Brad, they've got the corners and the walls, and there's no margin.
No.
And what makes this great is it's right down in this, historical place around the bay. And there's places where the drivers can't see what's coming. And then they go into a tunnel, we'll talk about in a minute, and then they come out and it's bright lights. And what makes this so unique is the drivers love it because they get to, drive it. And the way I look at it for some of the fans, if you've ever driven on a mountain road the first time, you're a little hesitant.
Right.
Okay, the next time you're like, all right, I know where that curve is. I know where that bump is. Okay, maybe the third time, I'm going to try to push it around this corner because I know what's coming. But then all of a sudden there's a truck or something. You got to. So that's what these drivers are doing lap by lap by lap. And the reason being is the margin of error is probably 1 inch.
Yeah.
In centimeters, I'm not sure what that is. But, that's what I see about the uniqueness of this track. The drivers love it, but it's like, like I said, you're on a road somewhere. Maybe you don't have mountains where you are. You're on a road somewhere and the curve, or the bounce, or the bump. That I can push here. I know I got to brake. That's what these drivers have done now and memorized. And we're hearing from Lewis, he's not even doing the simulator.
Nope.
He's like, I'm just going from memory, and I'm just going to go with the car. I mean, wow, isn't that something? But, I mean, Brad, what's your thought? Now, I grew up, that's what I saw on TV. So it was, we didn't get all the details that we have today.
Right.
But, Indy 500 was what we got, and then this. And so it was like totally different.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this track?
I thought you brought up a good point. There's some parts of this course that the drivers can't see. Todd, I'm reminded of the start. Depending on where you qualify, the further back you can't even see the 5 red lights go out there. It's all instinctive for those guys in the back. So that's a really big deal.
It is.
It's like you said, it's tight around here. And something that's cool about this, and if you obviously encourage you to watch the practices, obviously qualifying in the race, but every one of these corners, it's got a name, which I think is just really cool.
Which I can't pronounce.
No, and I know most of them. I know a lot of them, but I can't pronounce a lot of them. But they're going to go by a swimming pool. They're going to go. You said they're going to go. Yeah, they're going to go by the. They're going to talk about the casino. They're going to go through a tunnel, and so. It's just really, really cool. And then you're going to see they're going to go by the bay, and there's going to be 10,000 yachts out in the bay, and you're going to see celebrities all over on these yachts. So it's really, really cool. Todd, another thing you mentioned, I thought you brought up a good point. We talked a lot about in Canada a couple weeks ago, those guys brushing up against the wall of champions. Well, it's that way in about 15 different parts of the track. I mean, you're going to see these guys. They'll go over a chicane and they'll get a little airtime, and then they have to make a quick adjustment to avoid maybe a wall to their left or a wall to their right. So they're really pushing the car to the limit. And we're going to talk about this more, but passing is so tough here. But if you brush up against the wall, you're going to damage your car and risk really losing out in some position.
Yeah, you are.
As well.
And Brad, I mean, turn one is they're accelerating, they're hitting the chicane, they're braking, and they're having to make a turn.
Yeah.
And it's like if you've ever been on a narrow bridge and you're going at 55, 70 miles an hour. Well, these guys are going 100 and something miles an hour, and all of a sudden have to stop, accelerate, turn, and then the first turn, then they're going straight up the hill, and they've got to hit it.
Yep.
And yeah, it's crazy. And then turn 6, I think, is the tightest hairpin.
Hairpin, yep.
Going downhill, and then you've got to quickly get ready to get through the tunnel.
Yeah.
And you know that's got to excite you.
Oh,
Hey, I want to go through the tunnel. And then, folks, if you see coming out of the tunnel, they put a chicane in there many years ago on turn 10, 11, because people were flying down and there were some terrible wrecks that took place. So they added that little chicane. But folks, I mean, just imagine you on a road that you don't know, but then after you've driven it a while, you really want to push it a little bit. That's what this is about. Yeah. But 1 inch error, there is no margin.
There is none.
In Canada, we saw some margins.
Right.
Where they could, I run off.
Right.
Or whatever. Here,
there is none.
There's not. And it will ruin your, and it also, if they wreck in practice, since this is such a short course, you add that up.
Right.
It could be more laps that they're not learning.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
So Brad, I think you ready.
Let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into our weekend preview. Of course, this weekend, we've seen it the last 2 races. There's no sprint. They don't need to do a sprint here, Todd.
No.
It'd be chaos. But it is going to be three practices. You mentioned it. They need that. No matter how seasoned a veteran you are. I think about Fernando and Lewis. They've driven Monaco for 20-something years now.
Exactly.
Maybe not quite that long, but Fernando and Lewis have driven a lot. But new cars, and so it's going to be interesting to see how they do.
Yeah.
You see a couple of things behind us. Some radical winglets. Mercedes, Red Bull, and McLaren are featuring these. And Todd, give the F1 fans out there just kind of an idea of what these 3 teams are doing to the car.
Let me tell you. So if you look on this car here, there's a little piece that will flap the back flap, open or closed. And they're not going to allow that to happen because the new cars, they haven't quite figured it out right. And there has been, if you watch some races in the past, there's, they're trying to figure out active aero where all flaps are open. What they've done, these 3 teams have decided, okay, since the FIA said no active aero, they got creative in the last 2 weeks and built little winglets to create downforce. So they took that little piece off and built some downforce winglets. Since they're not going to be using it anyway. They're like, well, we need downforce around these corners. So it's very creative in this. And we'll see how it goes. Those 3 teams went ahead of it. And so if you watch the other races, Brad and others, you saw the wings flipping open on the straight. There's nothing.
Which is a really big deal. I mean, we talked about active aero is so different this year where, there's it's automated. There's parts of the course where it opens up, and that's the back wing and front wing. FIA came out and they said due to the course being so tight, they didn't want cars going at dangerous speeds. No active aero. Now, as you see behind us, overtake mode is still available. They're still going to deploy that battery and everything. But Todd, these 2 things, active aero and overtake, and 4, Todd, this was crazy. 4 overtakes in 2025 here in Monaco. And we're going to talk about this in a second, but your position matters. Todd, do you think we're going to see a little bit more passing this week with kind of this stuff, or do you think it's going to kind of be par for the course? That it's just very.
I think it's going to be par for the course. Even though last year, they tried to put 2 pit stops in to try to manufacture some passing, and it didn't
help.
Do anything.
It didn't help. So, which we're back to the one. You have to make it. You have to just one. But I think that was a good move. There was no need for 2 mandatory pit stops.
Yeah, and they didn't want to hear, if they do have the active aero and people running into walls, and they didn't want to go there.
It's a safety hazard.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so, a couple teams got creative. And, with this, the tires, they won't degrade as much. But what will happen is all the braking the rubber will come off.
Right.
And so I think that's one reason why they also did this. But,
Right.
I don't think so. What do you think about overtakes?
I kind of agree with you. I think we're going to tend to see just a few more this year, but I would be surprised. We might get into maybe the low teens. I'm hoping for double digits, right? And I love Monaco, but Todd, we talked about it. Truthfully, it's not the most exciting race. I mean, and we'll talk about it here in just a second, but it's not the most exciting race. You watch it because it's iconic. We watch it because we're F1 fans. But if you're looking for that high exciting race, it's down the
the race won't. But before the race.
Right.
Yeah.
Todd, let's get into that.
Yeah.
Qualifying here is critical. I mean, it's been one of those things that if you start really pole position, I won't say you're guaranteed, but you're in a very good spot. But just starting on the first row was good. We saw Lando on pole last year. He pulled away Charles 2 years ago, which that was so cool to see. Charles 2 years ago.
And Charles about did it last year.
He about did it last year. It was a good race last year, but we mentioned 4 overtakes in 2025, and Saturday qualifying is much more exciting. Todd, something we haven't mentioned is, this is already a tight course. The engineers for these teams, they are closely watching, especially on Saturday and qualifying, okay, when to tell the drivers to go out. Todd, we got 2 more cars on the course this year.
We do.
It's gonna be absolute madness, and I'm really interested to see. These guys are really going to be pushing to where they have to do a couple of consecutive hot laps just to get a time on the board.
Yeah, I agree, Brad. And folks, hot lap means they're going to save all their juice and they learn the track and then just flat out go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're right. If you're living in some metropolitan areas, for example, you used to be able to go down the interstate at X speed and there wasn't that many cars.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, there's more people. Where are all these people coming from? That's kind of what this is going to be like. So, Brad, what they're going to have to do is, 22 cars now on a very tight place. It's already tight.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've watched it, practice and qualifying, they go all, at the same time. Now, of course, qualifying, calls out some folks. But
Q1's going to be crazy, I would imagine. Yeah.
And, folks, that's where if you can watch qualifying, because that's where the drivers also know that's where they've got to lay it out. The engineers, technicians, and stuff, they throw a lot of things out of the book because it doesn't work here. And so they're relying on that driver to tell them, and then, are you really ready to go, Brad? Yeah, I'm ready to go, and that's what it is. Yeah. So you're right. Qualifying, and I think the last so many races that I've watched have all come from, the winners come from 1 or 2.
Right.
Nobody behind. Right. Unless there was a wreck.
Right.
Or something. Yeah. But that's what it is. But qualifying is going to be exciting.
It's going to be super exciting. All right, Todd, let's get into what matters in Monaco. We've talked about it. We've seen some walls already. And we mentioned Canada, but the walls are closer here. It's that much tighter. There's no margin. You mentioned it earlier. There's absolutely no margin for error here. If you do just have that slight bit of oversteer, understeer, you're in the wall, and your session, your qualifying, your race is over with. And that's not something that these guys want to do. They're gonna, and Todd, it's one of those fine margins they've got to push because they just need those hundredths, tenths of a second.
That's
but
right.
If you do that in the wrong place, you're in the wall.
And I think on turn 1 is the only out. There is a little area, but after that, there's nothing. And you are, 10 and 11, you can go across it, but then that's a penalty.
Right.
But there's only really 2 places here that can be kind of, I'm going to let loose here. So it's going to be interesting. Yeah, watch it for sure. No room for error.
Absolutely. You mentioned the iconic hairpin here. Braking is so important here. Braking is so important here. You got to hit your spots, and that is just it's critical. We're going to see that we may hear some engineers saying, okay, let's cool the brakes a little bit because this is a heavy braking course.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's why 3 of the teams did the more downforce.
Right.
So as soon as you let off the gas, you got downforce, and not push as much brakes, but it doesn't matter. You got ups, sides, turns. You got uphills, downhills here. You got sideways downhills, and it's going to be a lot of braking.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, definitely so. And then the low speed, I think that's what we're going to see. Some of the vehicles, for example, Ferrari, we're talking about in a minute. In their high end, they're not able to do the speeds. I think this track is really going to play to them. Haas maybe,
yeah,
Williams maybe. You know, there's a few there that could do it, and that's low speed is high reward because of the arrows, or the margin is so thin. If you're going too fast, you're done.
Right.
And I think that's going to be coming in. And then Brad, you know, on the Bay, we haven't seen the wind really affect all the cars that much. We saw a little bit in Canada.
Yeah.
Saw a little bit in Miami, but what do you think here?
You know, the weather's generally usually really good in Monaco. I mean, yes, there's obviously been some wet races in the past, but I'm curious with the wind, but also, you know, just kind of being, you know, there in the city, you know, some of the buildings may kind of block that wind. It's I don't think it could be as much a factor, you know, as we saw in Canada and everything, but it's definitely, you know, it's something to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, and Brad, I think when they're down near the paddock, and the boats, you know, they're right there at sea level.
Oh yeah,
GPS doesn't work as much because they're the hills.
Right, they're in that valley. Yeah.
The technicians can't communicate exactly because of what's going on.
Right.
So, you know, that's what's interesting too. So you got wind and different things, and I think the tire management. So
yeah, and we mentioned it. You know, Todd, this could be the course that we actually see. You know, a lot of guys choose to go from soft to hard.
Yeah.
You know, some of them could start the race on medium. There's going to be a lot of tire strategies, but one thing, and we mentioned it a few minutes ago, I'm glad they did away with the mandatory two stop. We saw it last year, and it fell flat on its face. They were hoping that, you know, it's going to change some strategies. We're going to get some more passing. It absolutely did not. So Monaco's always been a one stop where, you know, push that first set of tires and then manage the rest of the way.
And I don't see the weather here other than the wind. We don't have any rain.
Right.
Oh, we were supposed to have rain in Canada. Never got
it.
We have yet to see the wet tires. We did see the intermediates run shortly, but we haven't seen it. So, yeah. I mean, so that's what matters. Qualifying matters.
Yeah.
And all of what we just talked about here is what you lead up to get to qualify.
That's right.
And, you know, so folks, that's what you've got to, you know, understand. Some of the drivers even say it's a boring race, you know, a race.
Yeah. I know Max has been super critical of it, you know. I will say, you know, Max has obviously won here, but it's not a course that Max particularly loves. And some, I won't say that he struggles, but, you know, some of them say it's about as exciting as watching, you know, maybe a golf tournament or something. Some of them, like I said, Charles really loves it. Charles obviously knows this course because he takes a scooter everywhere on it. But some of them are like it's an absolute snooze fest. So
that's right.
You know, it's going to be interesting. All right, Todd, let's get into it. What are you expecting out of Ferrari this weekend?
Well, Ferrari, this is going to be their race. I really do believe it because they have figured out, you know, the cornering, and we've seen it. Mm-hmm. We've seen that they're whatever they got in the car, they can corner well. What they're missing is on the straights. Well, guess what? You know, Monaco really doesn't have that many straights. So I think they're going to have that figured out. If they can get up front, I think, you know, Ferrari is going to make it happen. Yeah. And then, as we talked at the beginning, Charles has got a little bit off his shoulders.
That's right.
Hamilton, Lewis, he got on the podium, so now he's got confidence. Yeah. He's driving without simulation, so that tells you I'm going back to my old school. I'm just going to go by wire and feel. So I think Ferrari is going to shine.
I agree with you.
And I've heard, you know, a lot of the other teams saying that this is their course.
I agree with you. Yeah.
You know, but guess what? If they don't show up or if they make some of their interesting strategy decisions, who knows? But I think it's the last 2 years they've done well. I mean, Hamilton had a terrible wreck here last year, but Charles was very close. Yep. And won the year before. Yep. So I think it's going to go well. What about your guys?
I'm optimistic. You know, I think one of them could see the podium, but I'm honestly predicting. I'm predicting anywhere from, you know, I'm hoping one of them gets on the podium and then the others in the top 5. I do think, and I think you brought up a good point, I do think this is a race and this is a course where Mercedes' huge advantage over everyone, it's completely neutralized. I do think, you know, McLaren has made some good advances. I'm with you, you know, not to give too much, but I think this is Ferrari's weekend. I'm really kind of feeling that, but I really I feel good that, you know, I feel good that one of my guys is going to get on the podium. I want to be competitive and I want to finish the race, and no stupid tire decisions, and not going to get into that.
I think that's been figured out.
Yeah.
And then it's y'all's 1,000th race.
Yeah, super excited. McLaren has won the most races in Monaco. It was cool to see Lando and Oscar get to meet some McLaren legends, get to go in some old cars around the track. So we've got a special livery for this weekend, as does a couple other teams. So it's going to be a fun weekend. It's super exciting. But yeah, love my team. Just hope we can get past the mistakes. All right, Todd, let's get into our predictions. Who have you got on the podium in Monaco this weekend?
I've got Charles, Lewis, and Lando.
Charles, Lewis. That's pretty straightforward. Okay, so let me ask you, where do you have the Mercedes guys?
I think they're going to Kimi and George could be there, but I think it'll be 5 or 6.
Okay.
I think we're going to see Oscar and Max
close.
I think Mercedes, as we've talked about, is just going to fall back.
Yeah.
Even though they know coming into this race that they were going to be underdogs.
Yeah.
I just don't think they will be able to push on the straights like they've been doing.
I think that's such a good ball. I think the lack of straights here, their speed advantage is it's even. I'm with you. All right, so I'm going to go
Brad,
third.
What
I'm going to go Oscar.
Right.
Oscar's hungry.
Like
he is, he's had some really, really unfortunate luck, but Japan was a good race for him. He led for a while, finished second. Oscar is very technical, and I think this suits him. Second, I'm going with Lewis, and man, I just love that Lewis had such a strong race in Canada. It was good to see him and Max going back and forth. I'm going Lewis, and then I'm pulling for this guy. I'm pulling for Charles to take first. He is, behind my guys, he's one of my favorite drivers. I think he's a good guy. He's a native to Monaco. I was so thrilled that he got this extension. It's time for Charles to win another race. Todd, it's been a minute. And I think his time is now, and really, really hoping to see him put that stamp of approval that just Ferrari made the absolute right decision to extend him, and I think he's going to take that first place.
Yeah, plus you don't have to go on an airplane, go home. He can just go back.
He can just
and have
someone's going to see him on his scooter on his way back to his
with the trophy.
Exactly, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
Yeah,
super excited. We want to thank you so much for all the support. We've like I said, we've been battling some technical difficulties, but finally got a reaction video out, and we have enjoyed doing this. And like I said, with all the upcoming races in Europe, we're going to definitely continue to put out content. But thank you so much for all your support, especially on the Canada videos and all of our videos. Give us your thoughts in the comments this week about what we're going to see this weekend in Monaco. It's going to be a lot of fun. Please give this video a like. It helps us. And please hit that subscribe button. We're here to talk F1. We love talking F1 with you. And get ready for an exciting Monaco Grand Prix. This is Todd and Brad on the Formation Lap, signing off.